let's look at the next option here. Let's go to preferences and let's go into advanced inventory, and let's talk about multiple inventory sites. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on, and it's telling me, because it's an existing QuickBooks file, it's asking me, hey, wait a second, where should we put all the items that are already in there? So I can basically have a sort of a default warehouse, and I can call it, we're going to call it here main warehouse. Okay, and then I'll hit OK. And basically, when I first turn it on, it's going to take all my current items and put them into just one location. So I'll hit continue. And then there's a couple of interesting things here. We have, warn me if there's duplicate transfer numbers. Warn me if if inventory would go to negative, and then do multiple bin locations. We'll talk about that in 1 second. So I'll go ahead and hit OK, and then hit OK. And you have to give QuickBooks some time to kind of just move everything to a warehouse. So now that I've enabled multiple locations, when I go to reports and inventory, I now have two new reports. One is called inventory valuation by site, and the other one is inventory stock status by site. So right now, my inventory valuation by site is going to be identical to the one that we did just now, because that's all based on the main warehouse. But I'm going to go ahead and create another location. So I'm going to go here into the list menu and click on inventory site list. And then I'll go ahead and create a new location, and we're going to call this New York warehouse. Okay. And then I'll hit OK. And then I'm going to transfer some of that inventory into the New York warehouse. So let's say I'm going to transfer some of these bath vanity fixtures. So I'm going to go into inventory, and then I'm going to click on transfer inventory. And then I'll grab some inventory from my main warehouse and move that over to New York. And then I'm going to find and select. So I'll grab a couple of these here. Hit add selected items. And then I'll transfer 10 of each. So 10 of this one, 10 of that one, and 10 of the third one. And I'll pick the date of my transfer. And I can give the transfer a transfer number. I can have a memo in there. Okay, and then I'll click on save and close. Okay, so now when I'm looking at the same report, inventory valuation by site, we see my first site is main warehouse, and then I have to scroll down, and then I see my second site, New York, and tells me exactly how much I have per warehouse. So you have in one warehouse, I have 104,000, and the other one I have 775. On this same report, I can actually choose which warehouse I want to see. So if I only wanted to see New York, it only shows me that particular warehouse. I can also hide 0 quantities on hand if there happen to be any quantities on hand showing there with zeros. Okay, so let me show you even further how this works. When I go receive some inventory, so let's say I'm going to enter a bill here, and I'll pick, I'll just select a vendor here at random, and then I'll delete this line. I don't need the default line that's there, and then I'll pick one of these items here, and I'm going to receive 120 of them. Notice that I'm going to maximize this. Notice that now I actually have a site drop down. So now it actually requires me to put it somewhere. Okay, if I actually try to save this, it's going to tell me, hey, we can't move forward. Okay, you have to select a site, right? Because we're using multiple locations. You're forced to tell it where you're receiving this inventory. So it is definitely going to be a little bit more work, for sure. It's going to be a lot more work, because you're going to have to sit there and select an inventory site every single time. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close. And then I go back into this report, and it tells me exactly how many are just on the New York location, because that was the one report where I was filtering that location. Then when I actually go sell these things, so let's say I'm going to go invoice some of these items, and I'll go ahead and let me pick that same item that's in New York here. I'll pick this one right here. Notice that I get to choose the quantity, and then I have my drop down for the sites. Now this doesn't tell me here a preview on how many are on this site. I actually have to click on that little box that's there next to quantity, and I would have to see here where it says all sites and see where they are. Okay, and then in here on this box on the left, I can actually see specifically how many are in each one. So we have 13 in the main warehouse, we have 120 in New York. So now the salespeople can make a lot better decisions in terms of how fast they can get them to their client based on where they are or whether the client can pick it up somewhere or something like that. So if I was going to sell if I was going to sell them from different warehouses, I would have to basically sell, let's say I'm going to sell 10 from the main warehouse, and then I'm going to pick the same item here. So I'm going to pick the same item, and then I can sell, let's say from the New York warehouse, I can then sell 100. Okay, so if I was going to sell them from different site locations, I actually have to explicitly set them up as two different lines, letting it know where I'm selling them from. I'll hit save and close. I'll pick a customer, of course. That's important. Okay, and then you see that I refresh my location. I no longer have 120 of these. I only have 20. So that kind of gives you an idea of how the multiple warehouse locations work. So let's move on to bin locations. So bin locations are a little bit trickier. I'm going to go to Edit, Preferences, and then go back into Items and Inventory, Company Preferences, and click on Advanced Inventory Settings. And then I'm going to select this option called Track Bin Locations. Okay, so track bin locations within an inventory site, and it tells you it could be row, it could be shelf, it could be bin. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK again. And then I'm going to click on List Inventory Site List. And then the bin locations are actually inside of each site list. So notice that all the items are now under the unassigned bin under main warehouse. So I can actually create a couple of bins here. So I can call it, let's call it bin A, and I'll make this a bin of the main warehouse. Just do capital A here. And then I'll create another one called bin B, also as part of the main warehouse. So we'll call this bin B. So let's say, for example, we basically have two large shelves in the warehouse, one on the left side, one on the right side, and I could have stuff on the A or the B if I wanted to. So now it becomes even more tedious, right? Because I actually have to, every time I receive inventory, so I'll show you, I'm going to go to Enter Bills and pick any vendor here, and let's say I'm going to receive a couple of these. I actually have to say which site is going to be received into, and I have to tell it which bin, right? So I'm gonna have to say, look, I'm gonna do here show all. So I'm gonna put, let's say 21 bin, and then I'll pick the same item here. I don't have to pick the same item, but I'm just showing you as an example. And then this is also going to be, let's say I'm gonna put 50, and that's gonna go into the main warehouse, and that's gonna go into bin B. Okay, so that tells you basically where they're going to. It's not just a warehouse location, it's a location within a location. So you actually have to specify not just the inventory site, also the bin location as well. So we'll hit save and close. And if we need to sell them now, so we'll just kind of give you an example here. If I go sell these, okay, at the same token, I have to actually specify, which warehouse I'm selling it from and which bin I'm selling it from. Now, what's really nice about it is on the bin location field, that will give me a preview. So that will show me exactly how many there are on each bin. It doesn't show me here on the location, on the site dropdown, but it does show me on the bin dropdown. So I'll know exactly where to sell them from. And some people use bin numbers for other things. They use bin numbers for expiration dates. They see bin number to trick out lots, because somehow they want to use multiple lot dimensions, and we'll go into that once we're talking to lots and serial numbers in a little bit. So I get to pick which bin is coming from, and then how many. So I'll put here, let's say 5, and I go save and close. Then when I go into reports, inventory, and I do for example, inventory valuation by site. Okay, notice that these are still at the warehouse level, so I can pick here main warehouse, and it'll show me only main warehouse, but I can also do it at the bin level. So I can actually have any of these inventory valuation reports reported at the bin level, right? So I can do any of my bins. That was a default bin where everything got transferred to. So just think of bins as a sub-site, right? That it's the easiest way to see it. A bin is not really just a bin. It could be a location within a location. That's really the best way to go about understanding the concept of multiple warehouse locations and multiple bins.